it wasn't just that Adam Schiff was out and about. He put out a report that said there was no FISA abuse by the FBI. That was false. He said that the FBI didn't fail to turn over exculpatory information. That was false. He said that the Steele dossier was not a central part of the FISA applications against Carter Page. That was false.
Maria Bartiromo just did what a lot of people in Washington hoped she never would. She aired the clip, the one Adam Schiff probably prayed would stay buried forever, and the moment she hit play, you could practically feel an entire narrative shaking, cracking, and collapsing on live television. It's one of those moments where you sit back, stare at the screen, and think, oh, this is going to get messy. And trust me, it did. Before we jump all the way into the chaos, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. It helps this brand new channel grow, and if you're someone who believes the truth doesn't come with a party label, you're in the right place. So let's get into it, because Schiff opened a door he cannot close. And now the Inspector General is basically standing there holding a flashlight, pointing out everything he didn't want you to see. This story starts with a report, one that came out showing that during the last impeachment saga, yes, the impeachment hoax as many call it, Adam Schiff repeatedly fed the American people false statements about the FBI's actions.
Now there's an Inspector General report that comes out that says during the last impeachment hoax, Adam Schiff repeatedly made false statements to the American people about the FBI's action.
And I'm not talking about vague, debatable, depends how you interpret it statements. No, we're talking straight up false claims about things he absolutely should have known better about. Look, Schiff has been getting exposed for months now. It's been like a political piñata situation. Every week, someone hits the stick, something new falls out, and everyone watching goes, wait, he said what? But the latest declassification took everything to a new level. The new documents show, very clearly, the role Schiff played in pushing the entire Russiagate narrative. And as expected, the mainstream media instantly assumed their predictable defensive formation. They huddled up, slapped on the Schiff is the victim badge, and pretended this was all some political witch hunt.
You know, during Trump's first term in office, we talked about not wanting to become a banana republic, because in banana republics, criminal prosecution becomes a tool can use to intimidate his enemies.
But here's the thing, the facts don't care about MSNBC's panel discussions, and the facts coming out now are ugly. Back in Trump's first term, people used to warn about America becoming a banana republic. Remember that? Not because Trump was some dictator, but because of the fear that powerful government tools could eventually be turned into weapons against political enemies. And look where we are now. The irony is wild. But anyway, let's rewind, because the clip Maria played takes us back to 2019 on Sunday Morning Futures. And honestly, watching it now with what we know today feels like rewatching a movie after learning the twist. Suddenly, every line, every expression, every confident claim Schiff made hits differently. The guest in the clip lays it out bluntly. Democrats made the mistake of putting Adam Schiff, at the center of this whole thing. They built the entire credibility of their case around him. And the person who was supposed to be leading the investigation into Trump and Russia, well, according to the guest, he also happened to have met with the individual who left Schiff's office and magically became the whistleblower. You can't make this stuff up. Hollywood would reject this script for being too on the nose.
Here's a conversation on Sunday Morning Futures back from 2019. Watch this.
The Democrats have made the mistake of staking the credibility of all this on Adam Schiff. The person that they put in charge of this investigation turns out is the one that helped start it by meeting with a person who walked out of Adam Schiff's office and became the whistleblower. And at the very same time that that's happening, as you mentioned, now there's an Inspector General report that comes out that says during the last impeachment hoax, the Trump-Russia one, Adam Schiff repeatedly made false statements to the American people about the FBI's actions.
You know, Adam Schiff was certainly out and about a lot throughout the last 3 years saying that there is collusion in plain sight. And now we get the IG report and we actually see the misconduct and what they call errors, fraud, whatever you want to call it. What is your reaction to what you learned from Michael Horowitz?
And then comes the part that hits even harder in hindsight. While Schiff was doing all that, an Inspector General report was quietly gathering dust behind the scenes. A report showing that during the first impeachment, Schiff had repeatedly misled the public about the FBI's behavior in the Russia investigation. Remember Schiff's greatest hits? There's collusion in plain sight. We've got evidence you won't believe. It's everywhere. Yeah, about that. The IG report didn't just lightly contradict him, it bulldozed his claims. Schiff said there was no FISA abuse. That was false. He insisted the FBI didn't withhold exculpatory information.
It wasn't just that Adam Schiff was out and about. He put out a report that said there was no FISA abuse by the FBI. That was false. He said that the FBI didn't fail to turn over exculpatory information. That was false. He said that the Steele dossier was not a central part of the FISA applications against Carter Page. That was false.
At this point, if you turned his statements into a drinking game, you'd be unconscious by lunchtime. Now fast forward to the newly declassified FBI 302, a document based on claims from a whistleblower who isn't just some intern or fringe staffer. This guy worked in the intelligence community for over 20 years and spent 12 years on the House Intelligence Committee, and what he alleges is devastating for Schiff. According to him, Schiff approved leaking classified information to smear Trump during the Russiagate frenzy. Even worse, he claims Democrats on the committee had an entire system set up for leaking, like it was a routine. Sensitive info gets handed to Schiff, then decisions get made about who leaks what and when. Eric Swalwell was reportedly involved too, which honestly feels unsurprising at this point. In one instance, the whistleblower said a highly sensitive document, was seen only by a tiny list of people, somehow got leaked nearly verbatim within 24 hours. If this is true, it changes everything, because this isn't political messaging, this isn't spin, this is illegal. But guess what? It gets even more dramatic. Maria explains that according to the whistleblower, Schiff did all this because he expected to be appointed CIA director if Hillary Clinton won in 2016. And when Trump won instead, those dreams went poof, and suddenly the Russia collusion narrative gained rocket fuel.
The whistleblower claims this all started because Adam Schiff assumed he was going to be the director of the CIA in a Hillary Clinton administration. Of course, President Trump won, and those dreams were dashed. But how could Adam Schiff deny this when we have it on tape? He being, at the time, either the chairman of the intelligence community or later the ranking member of the intelligence committee in the House. He's over there on Chuck Todd and all these other Sunday shows saying that collusion between Trump and Russia is in plain sight. How do you deny that after you said that with the role as chairman of intelligence committee?
Well, first of all, I think that I'm so happy this is finally coming out and we actually have proof. And the number one thing that I think is different this time is the fact that the 302 report is now unclassified. And so Congress does have the information and the proof to back it up.
Now here's the part the media definitely doesn't want you thinking about. How does Schiff deny all this when the tapes are right there? He went on every Sunday show, every cable network, every panel saying collusion was in plain sight, over and over and over again. Yet when push came to shove, he never delivered a single piece of proof, not one. When the 302 was finally declassified, Schiff scrambled. He put out a statement calling the whistleblower a disgruntled former staffer and dismissed the claims as categorically false. According to Schiff, the guy had been fired for cause, but the whistleblower says he was pushed out for not being partisan enough, for refusing to leak, and because he didn't play the political loyalty game. Two stories. Only one can be true, but Schiff's story depends on us believing he never lies. And, well, the last few months have kind of blown that idea to pieces. Meanwhile, MSNBC didn't even touch the leaking revelation. Not a segment, not a mention. Instead, they assembled a panel that tried to twist all of this into some kind of Trump conspiracy. You had analysts claiming Trump must always initiate crises, predicting he'll claim elections are rigged in 2026, talking about perma-war and weaponized justice.
We are in a perma-war standing with Trump. He must initiate crises. He must go on the attack against his perceived enemies. He must attempt to keep his coalition together in the face of disintegrating forces, the Epstein issue, and also the incursion of the midterms, which is going to essentially render him some kind of a lame duck president.
This is the complete weaponization of the Justice Department for political purposes. You know, during Trump's first term in office, we talked about not wanting to become a banana republic, because in banana republics, criminal prosecution becomes a tool that a powerful dictator or chief executive can use to intimidate his enemies. And we seem to be at that point.
It does also now raise the question of what Donald Trump will do in 2026 if he loses the House or the Senate, and the groundwork that he might be laying to claim that that was rigged now as well. But we will leave that for another day.
Not one of them addressed the actual documents. Not one. They didn't talk about the leaks. They didn't talk about the false statements. They didn't talk about the wrongdoing. Just endless hand-wringing about Trump. It's almost like a reflex at this point. If something inconvenient comes out, scream Trump loud enough and hope the audience forgets what the segment was originally about. But here's the million-dollar question. Why are they panicking this hard? Whistleblower claims are typically treated as just that. Claims, allegations, not gospel. So why the meltdown? Why the frantic circling of wagons? Because if even part of this is true, it destroys the entire Russiagate narrative. It reveals deliberate manipulation, not mistakes, not misunderstandings, but intentional actions. And what actually turns a country into a banana republic is refusing to hold powerful people accountable. When investigators lie, when intelligence is twisted for political gain, when the media helps push false stories, that's when a system becomes a joke. When elites can do whatever they want while regular people follow the rules. That's the danger. Back to Maria's segment. She summed it up perfectly. Russiagate didn't just waste time. It ripped the country apart. It damaged trust in elections. It convinced millions of people that Trump was a Russian asset. It put doubt over every move the Trump administration made. It discouraged good people from joining government roles because they didn't want to be associated with someone who was constantly being accused of treason. Around the world, leaders looked at the US, supposedly the gold standard of democracy, and wondered whether the sitting president had cheated his way into office with the help of a foreign power. That's not a small thing. That shapes geopolitics.
This had so much impact. This ripped our country apart. What about the fact that it put a sitting president on defense? Every time he went anywhere, he had to say, I did not collude. What about the fact that it put his administration in jeopardy because so many people weren't sure if he did something wrong and they didn't want to join the administration? What about the rest of the world who looked at this and said, wow, did Donald Trump cheat and gain the election through collusion with Russia? I mean, there were so many elements that this made-up story from the Hillary Clinton campaign generated.
Well, it put an entire cloud over this entire country. And that's just not right, Maria. That's not the way it works. And thank goodness all of this is finally coming out. But imagine someone so desperate for power, so politically motivated that in this case he, or certainly a she, but in this case he, Adam Schiff, would actually twist and contort the truth and come up with lies and tell us he had evidence that we were going to be amazed by if he's finally allowed to bring it to light. Well, he didn't bring it to light because there was nothing.
And here's the kicker. None of it was ever proven. Not after years of investigations, endless headlines, breathless TV segments, and millions of taxpayer dollars poured into chasing a narrative. 5 separate investigations into Russia's role in 2016, and not one proved Trump colluded with Russia. Think about what that means. Think about the opportunity cost, infrastructure issues ignored, economic problems sidelined, real national security priorities pushed aside. Why? For a story that never landed. Imagine how different the country could look right now if all that time, energy, and money had gone into solving real problems. But instead, we got political theater. And Schiff wasn't just a side character in that theater. He was the lead actor, the script writer, and the hype man rolled into one. He kept promising bombshell evidence that never materialized. He kept presenting himself as the guardian of democracy while misleading the public behind the scenes. Maria ended the segment with the point that almost no one in the mainstream media will say out loud. This wasn't just politics. This was a betrayal of trust. A betrayal that left a cloud over the entire country for years. And now, with the truth finally trickling out, people are realizing just how deep the damage went. Because at the end of the day, this whole saga boils down to something incredibly simple. If powerful people can lie with zero consequences, what stops them from doing it again? What stops the next manufactured scandal, the next politically motivated leak, the next baseless headline that dominates the news cycle for months? That's why accountability matters. Not because people want revenge, not because anyone wants political chaos, but because the system system itself collapses without honesty. And that's why this story is so important, even years later. So let me know what you think. Do these new revelations change your view of Schiff? Do they change your view of Russiagate? Do they change your view of the media? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button if you found this breakdown helpful, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss future videos. This is just the beginning.